All right, everyone. Thanks for your patience while we work through that glitch. But today we're here to talk over the site permit, uh, primarily 2,500 square foot distribution criteria for our grading plan. And we're also going to spend some time learning a little bit more about the plus system that you've created. Today is May 11th, 2022, and we're excited to have you here. So Helmy, why don't you take it away and get us started.
Thank you, Ted. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here and happy to collaborate with the Promi Atlantic membership. And let me turn this over to Steve Kenrick and Nicole Mcmahon to walk us through their presentations. And maybe, I'm not sure if you want to hold questions to the end, but we can work through that. Steve?
Sure. Are you able to share, Steve?
Oh. Hey guys, this is Nicole. I'm actually going to start us off with the site permits piece. So I'll go ahead and get us started. Let me just get my screen share up here with you guys.
Good.
Just a second. The nod that you guys are seeing my screen.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect. So go ahead and jump right in. All right. So site permits reviews, topic that was asked of us to present to you guys today. So site permits review, for those that don't know, or anything generally off a house location plat, because the idea and the initial proposal is that the limits of disturbance will remain under 2,500 square feet of disturbance. That's the threshold created based on the Chesapeake Bay ordinance that we give as when a grading plan may be required in lieu of being able to do the work off of a house location plat. Just some general permit types that require house location plat, or that we most commonly see house location plats submitted for, are listed up here. Decks, smaller additions, screen porch additions. Do see some larger two-story additions, just depends on the footprint size. But again, it's anything that from initially looking at it, you believe is going to be able to remain under 2,500 square feet of land disturbance, factoring in our requirements that go into that figure. So again, house location plat, just have this slide here just to make sure that we're all on the same page. What a house location plat is, this is what's required to perform these site permit reviews. On our website, we do have some information about the kind of minimum requirements for house location plats. We've got some links down here so that you guys can look in more depth to those requirements, but generally, it needs to be clear and legible. It needs to show the entire parcel. Needs to be signed and sealed by a land surveyor, needs to have a scale listed, must show the existing and proposed work on the house location plan. So the going into the 2,500 square feet, that is the limits of disturbance that we're looking for. These are the things that contribute to that 2,500 limit. So it is the area of the footprint for the project itself. So again, if you're doing a deck, it would be the footprint of the deck. So if you're building a 10 by 10 deck, that would be what we're looking for there. A 10-foot work zone around the proposed work. So again, you have that 10 by 10 deck, you're putting a 10-foot kind of buffer around it. And that idea is you're working within that space to build this proposed structure. Possible area for a stockpile. So stockpile for us is anytime you have to excavate dirt. It is not necessarily there for material storage. But the stockpile, so anytime you have to excavate dirt, if you have to put that dirt somewhere on the ground, that's what we're talking about with that stockpile there. And then a 10-foot wide access from the street to the area of work. Most people are able to leverage their existing driveway to kind of start that access point, and that tends to be where we go from the edge of the driveway to the proposed work. As the example, if it was a deck, going around the house to the rear from the closest part of the driveway. So just kind of an example of how we calculate that. Again, both the information before and this one are all available on our website. But this kind of outlines again what we're showing here. So this particular case, you've got a driveway, a proposed detached structure. We're going to assume for this example that this is not a garage, that it's maybe just a rear addition, maybe it's a pool house, perhaps there's a pool over here, something of that nature. So you have a 10-foot access going there, you have that 10-foot buffer or that work zone all the way around the structure, and then the structure itself would be calculated.
Do you want to see people put dimensions on the drawing to tell you how big these areas are, or are you just going to figure that out from the plans for that structure?
So so we do figure it out based on the structure. It is certainly recommended and encouraged for you guys to put that on there for us. It just gives a good example, and it's a good way for both of us to know kind of where you're planning to access the work zone for, and then it also shows that you're calculating that. So if we get a discrepancy somehow, it should be an easier discussion about how we're having a discrepancy. Generally, if there's a discrepancy and you guys are showing your limits of disturbance, it generally comes down to maybe you called it an 8-foot work zone, but we said it has to be a 10-foot work zone. Things like that tend to be kind of where we get that discrepancy, but that generates a good conversation for us to be able to have. Next couple slides are just examples, so kind of showing this plat here. This particular person did not show limits of disturbance. So again, for kind of these more complex additions and things like that, if it's not super easy, we do occasionally have to kind of print it out and we have to draw it on there and kind of figure out so that we're all on the same page, so that when we discuss the limits, we're all seeing the same thing and can kind of have that conversation together. So this one, the yellow is that work zone. All of this hatching is new additions being installed. We have the driveway here. That's why the yellow just stops. So there's no stockpile necessarily having to be proposed in this one because of looking at elevation pages and things like that. Again, this one, so this is a good one, right? So they actually did outline and show us their limits of disturbance. They did a few things that we would have done differently. I know that there are some local jurisdictions that allow the corners to be cut. It's not something that we do in Fairfax County. So they're cutting the corners here, but this particular person bumped out for this bay window. We would have let that remain within that 10-foot access. So this red is what they calculated. This light blue is what we calculated using the measuring tool within Project Docs. So this is how we measure LODs. You guys have access to the measure tool from your side of Project Docs as well. This is how we get to it. We reduced any existing impervious area, and that's how we got that this one does remain under 2,500, including a stockpile that they did not show because this addition included about 3 feet of excavation. Again, just another example of lots of work happening here. They showed limits of disturbance, wasn't quite lining up with how we would have done limits of disturbance. If this existing deck is to remain, then you can't tell me that you're going to drive the machinery over that existing deck as part of your work zone. So we do account for that sort of things as well. So welcome to have those conversations, but it does need to be a realistic approach to the construction. So again, right, if you're going to tell us that the deck's to remain, then to get to the other portion of the work, there's an assumption you're going to have to go around it, especially in this particular case, it only allowed for 3 feet. They were going to cut the existing deck to build this addition. So again, things that didn't factor in a stockpile, we had to add a stockpile. This was a dig out for a basement. So things like that is how we come up with it. We try to list out our calculations, especially when it's very close. So that again, there has to be a conversation about how we got there, why we got there, what we saw differently. It's just a little easier to show it when we do it this way. Any questions on those examples?
When you go over, as they did in this example, what happens? Do you reject the submission and wait for it to get revised, or?
We do. So there'll be a comment on this one that would have said that the limits of disturbance appear to have exceeded 2,500, that a grading plan would then be required, assuming it is over 2,500. And they have the option of, again, we can have a discussion if they feel like we calculated something differently or that we had a misunderstanding about something. We'll certainly look into that. Or sometimes we have people that reduce the scope of work to get back under 2,500 that don't want to pursue a grading plan.
Does phasing the work apply? So maybe in phase one, you do, the addition and the front porch, get those built and final inspection done, then go phase two to the back?
Depends. So generally speaking, we don't allow for phased work residentially. As far as separating limits of disturbance to kind of avoid a grading plan, it can be done, and there are certain scenarios, kind of like you explained, if there was like maybe a front porch and a rear deck and the lot was just massive, and doing them together got you over the 2,500, but separately you could remain, then that could be something that we pursue. And yes, it would have to be that you had a final inspection on it and then begin the new one, because part of our site permits review is that we are looking at all open permits. And if there's a current calculation for limits of disturbance, we will factor that into the new permit. And if the two combined exceed 2,500, you will get a fail on that, whatever happens to be the latter permit applied for, letting you know that the combined LOD exceeds. It also comes down to the scope of work, right? If you have a detached garage being built in the rear of your property, and you are going to tell me that you are building the garage, but then you're going to come back later and do the driveway, that's when we may say that's not going to work. That's all one scope of work. And at that point, we will continue to say a grading plan is required.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Next one I just wanted to show is Jade. This is a GIS software that's available from the customer side. So all of you guys have access to it. This is the other part of the site permits review that we are able to, that we perform. So when you're getting comments about perhaps a resource protection area, floodplain, easements, those are all available for you guys to view within Jade. You guys can turn on layers. You're able to see, the floodplains, the FEMA floodplains. One up here, not on the screenshot, is that RPA, the resource protection area. So you just plug in the address, you'll get the map. We have a similar software on our side, but the views are the same as far as the information that's available to both of us. So it's a good one to just have. The other thing that this allows you to do, kind of like Google Earth, it does have some imagery available. So part of us checking that those house location plats show existing structures on the property is that we are leveraging this GIS software, and we'll take a look at it. Sometimes in this particular example, for this swimming pool, they were installing the swimming pool. They had stated that this decking was all existing. We looked at GIS.
Yeah.
Said, hey, based on what we're seeing, does not appear that that's accurate. Right? There was some discussions that perhaps these planter beds were already there and these steps down. So again, that kind of goes to that whole, it would seem odd. That seems like a very cohesive scope of work to tell us after the fact that this was already existing. So again, we're just trying to look at the whole thing, make sure that everything matches up with what you're giving us, matching up with what we're seeing out there, and ensuring that, we're making sure we're all on the same page. But again, this is all available to you guys as well. that was kind of the quick rundown. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer any that you may have.
Are you going to go into what a grading plan is?
I was
That
not.
part of this topic?
I was not. No, I think it'd certainly be a good topic for another day. That is a separate, kind of separate that department. We work closely together, but my group does not go into the grading plans and the requirements for the grading plan. So I would probably do a disservice of trying to explain those or answering any real technical questions on it.
Is it something that has to be done by a licensed person?
The grading plan submissions,
Yeah.
yes, I do know that, but yes.
Mhm. Like in one of those examples that exceeded the, if you could back up a little bit to that 2,900 square foot one.
Mhm.
They exceeded your limits of disturbance, but it doesn't really look like they're doing any grading other than digging the holes for the foundation here. So, but you would still require the grading plan, huh?
In this case, yeah, I mean, there was enough here that in addition with the stockpile, giving back all of the impervious that we could. So as you see, they're building out this addition here. We gave them back the existing driveway footprint. This was all brand new, including the dig out for the basement. So, you know, this section here, they called a basement. It's a new laundry room. This section here, they called a crawl space. But looking at the elevation sheets and the floor plans, while they are labeling it a condition crawl space, it is a true 7 feet. It was matching up with the basement. So again, that excavation requires the stockpile to be of the same size. So yeah, on this one, it definitely exceeded it. And it did require a grading plan submission.
I'm just wondering what you would put on the grading plan if you're not really changing the grade of anything. You would just show the stuff and get it stamped?
I think it gives the opportunity to look into, you know, stormwater retention possibilities that may need to play into account. And again, I'll do a disservice if I try to go too deep
Okay,
into
I'll
this
stop.
and probably get myself in a bad spot. So I don't want to get myself in too much hot water here, speaking
Yeah.
for a department that is better served to speak for themselves.
Yeah. So Ted, you got a topic for the next meeting?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it was a gracious way to back out that and smart. That's good. Yeah, any other questions? I think well done. I think then why don't we move on to the next topic, which is learning a little bit more about the new software development. So who's leading that one, Helman?
That's going to be me.
It's gonna be Steve. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Great. Sure.
And I apologize. I don't know how to, oh, there it is.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you did
Nicole.
great, Nicole. Thank you.
Good job.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Steve Kendrick, the current manager of the Permit Application Center. And this afternoon, I just wanted to give you kind of a high-level timeline on Plus, which is our new software that's going to launch later this year. It's the planning and land use system that we have dubbed Plus. We've already had 3 releases of this software. Various things are out there on the street to be done now. There's some site address change things. There's a lot of zoning stuff that's available. We have a few things on the building side, code modifications and code appeals and household appliance applications and permits can be obtained right now currently through Plus. There's a much larger launch that's coming later this year, and we're just going to kind of go through our tentative schedule right now. That starts on July 12th. That's when the development period ends. So all the things that we're building, from workflow to fees to inspections, the types of applications that you're going to apply for, July 12th is the last day that we will be doing that development work. And then starting on July 13th and running through probably about September 22nd, we're going to be doing systems testing. That block of time includes creating test plans, making sure all the code migrates and stuff like that, to make sure that what we did do during the development period is actually going to be working day one when we do launch. And then September 23rd through October 6th and through October 28th, we kind of have two things going on concurrently. We'll be doing what's called regression testing through all of the different environments of Plus, to make sure that all of that code and stuff that was built makes it all the way to the end of the line. And also at the same time, we're going to be developing training materials, web content, standard operating procedures for staff. We're also going to start our training program somewhere in that time frame. And that training is going to include staff and industry. We ask that if you have not done so, please sign up for the letters to industry. We're going to try to do a lot of communicating with those trainings through that letter to industry. And then October 31st is our go live date. Yes, that's Halloween, and it's not a joke. That is our go live date. And we're really excited about this. I think there's a lot of improvements that are being made to our current process. The single most biggest improvement, honestly, is we're going to take probably 4 major systems and about 12 to 14 shadow systems, and everything's going to be in one system now. So if you need to apply for a building permit, or if you need to apply for a rezoning or a special permit through zoning, all of that stuff is going to be done through one system. And that also includes the plan review piece. So the Acela software, you won't have to, log into Fido and Project Docs like you do now. Everything will be handled through the Plus system. When you log in, you fill out your application, you upload your drawings to the digital plan room, and everything is there in one location. And after we go live, we're going to continue to do trainings, webinars, and other things for industry for a period of time to be determined. But we're going to make sure that we're giving you as much training as you can possibly get on how to use the system moving forward, so that you're better suited to log in and be able to apply for these things, and with limited assistance from us. Obviously, there's going to be those things that you're going to need us for. Some kind of odd project or something to that effect. But for the most part, the way this system is designed, you manage yourself, basically. You log in, create an application, upload your plan, monitor it while it's going through the process. You're going to get notifications along the way. Some of those notifications may be, hey, you need to pay a fee, or it may be, hey, your permit's issued. But a lot of the control is in your hands as the applicant with this new software. So I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions.
I guess I'll go. I'm curious. So you'll be able to see really at any point in time where any particular project is inside the process, correct?
So you will have one of the things that you will have when you create an application is there's a tab or a button that's called processing status, and when you click on that, you'll be able to see exactly where your project's at. We're looking into, and this is no guarantee, but we're looking into the potential of having a report that could be available that would show you, my plan is 8th in line, or my plan is 15th in line. We're not really at the end of that yet. And it may be something that comes after go live with this final push. But the go live on October 31st is not like, okay, here's the system, we're done, this is it for the next 10 years. We will constantly be making updates and changes to this along the way as business changes. We've built this in a way to where it's a little bit easier to change than Fido and Project Docs. So we can make changes after the fact, and some things we couldn't get into the system and complete it in time. So we already kind of have like this little list of things that we know we're going to do later. So
That's great. The other question I had is, where would you recommend people go to sign up for that letter of industry? Is there a specific spot on the website or?
yes, I can send you the link to that. Yes.
Okay, great. We can include that in the with the recording so folks can get to it later too. Great. Anybody else? I think keep going. Great job.
Cool. That's all I had.
Oh, is it? Great.
Yeah. Pretty high level. Again, we're going to come back to this group in August, and we're kind of hoping that when we come back in August, we have a little bit more of a defined training schedule. That's kind of the hope. We're going to try to get there, and that would be a topic for the August meeting.
That's great. That's great. Well, then with that, are there any other questions that anybody else has?
I have one comment. It takes us a long time to develop a set of plans frequently. So getting this schedule out to our members, I think, sooner than later is important so that they know anything they submit after October 31st is going to have to meet the requirements of the new system. So as far as preparing plans go, the actual drafting of it, is that going to change at all, or this is just the platform we're submitting it in?
This is just the platform for submitting, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but there are some improvements that are going to happen when it comes to the digital plan room versus project docs. Just to kind of highlight a couple of those really quickly off the top of my head. The name of your sheets, which we all know in project docs has to be very specific so that when you reload them, it comes back in and it versions properly. The name of the sheets in the digital plan room don't matter as much. Obviously, you can't have a special character in there like a $sign or an @ symbol. Otherwise, the system's not going to accept the sheet. But when you come back in for subsequent submissions, we're not looking as closely at the name of the file. We're looking at the sheet number that's down in the right-hand corner. So that's one thing that's a system improvement over the digital plan room versus project docs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to get anything out to membership, I would make sure that they're putting an A1 or an A2 or an S1 or an S2 on those down in the bottom right-hand corner of those sheets. If there's nothing there, the software does give you an opportunity to enter a sheet number. It doesn't just kick the submission out altogether. So we'll have some of that stuff kind of built into the training on what to do. If you have a hand-drawn plan and you don't have a sheet number, we will give some guidance on what to do there.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Anything else, David?
No. I love to see advances in technology, though.
Here, here.
Make everybody's life easier.
That's right. Well done. I think as we conclude this meeting, the next topic is going to be the entire session is going to be about all the updates for the Plus system. So I think we'll be able to do a deeper dive. And Dave, to your point, that might be some of the start of preparing everybody, because that's on August 10th. It'll be about a little more than 2 months.
Yeah, that'll be good timing.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. So, well, everyone, thank you for coming and joining us here today. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having us, and we look forward to seeing you in August.
Sounds great.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Helmut.
you.
Thank you all.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.